Electrocast.
Why wait to see if you'll get something you like this Valentine's Day when you can go to BlueNile.com and find something you'll love? Whether you're looking to treat yourself to a little winter sparkle or show a galentine how much you appreciate them, Blue Nile offers a wide selection of high-quality designs, expert guidance, and free 30-day returns for the ultimate peace of mind. You can even design your own jewelry. Right now, save up to 50% at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. From the launch your online shop stage, all the way to the we just hit 1 million orders stage. No matter what stage you're in, Shopify's there to help you grow. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/special offer, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/special offer.
On this episode of Missing the Point, we're joined once again by mixed martial arts fighter Hilarie Rose as we preview UFC 257 Poirier vs. McGregor 2. First, we'll discuss Hilarie's recent fight on ESPN Plus's Dana White's Contender Series and what she's improved upon since the bout. We discuss the recent decision by the UFC to remove marijuana from their list of banned substances and how this can benefit the MMA community. And finally,
this is the main event of the evening.
As we look forward to Conor McGregor's return to the octagon as he takes on Dustin Poirier for the second time. But first, some housekeeping. Missing the Point is a 1-hour podcast recapping the biggest stories in the world of sports with a New England flavor. The show notes and transcript from today's episode can be found in the description box below, as well as on our website, www.mtpshow.com. If you're new to the show, consider subscribing. It's the easiest way to see when we publish new episodes. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, and wherever you get your podcast. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure to rate the show and leave a review for a chance to win a free Missing the Point t-shirt. Be sure to follow us on all of our social medias. All of our links will be in the show notes. And check out our brand new website, www.mtpshow.com. That's mtpshow.com. And now, this is Missing the Point, episode 33. But it's all relative.
Welcome to Missing the Point. I am your host, Mike Marcangelo, joined alongside by DK Sizzle Dave Clark, and today we are talking all things MMA, UFC, and Conor McGregor, and because of that, we have a very special guest to help us along the way. You may remember her from our very first episode of Armchair's Ask Athletes. She is by far the biggest badass to come across your airwaves, the one, the only, Hilarie Rose. Hilarie, it's been over 100 hours of content and a name change since we last spoke, but how are you?
I'm good. How are you? I'm excited to be back to talk with you guys. I had so much fun last time.
Yeah, we're super excited to have you back. We want to talk a little bit about you, your fight, and then obviously, Dave has a little shamrock in his shorts over the fight happening next Saturday, the Conor McGregor fight. So let's start with what's happening with you. The last time we talked to you was before your big fight on Dana White's a Contender. Talk about the fight and what did you learn?
Okay, so the fight was awesome. I mean, I had a great time. I mean, it's inevitable. Somebody has to win, somebody has to lose. And, that girl came to fight. I make no excuses. You go in there and you have expectations for yourself, and then it either goes your way or it goes their way. And that girl was really, really good at taking away the things that I was good at, like, being against the cage and throwing elbows and wanting to throw certain things. She was really good at taking away all of the things I was good at. So, hats off to her. And, the experience was so much fun. Like, I learned so much about myself as a fighter and, experience and, things that I needed to work on. That's definitely my hardest fight that I had in my career. And I think that at that point in my career is kind of really what I needed. And it opened my eyes to a lot of things that I needed to work on. And yeah, I was disappointed and I've been disappointed, but you just learn, and I can't wait to fight again. And, I think that opportunity will just show up eventually. It's just not right now. So at this point, I don't think I want to force anything. I'd rather just let it take its course. And when I end up there, if it's 3 fights from now, 1 fight from now, or 10 fights from now, I think it's inevitable.
It's tough to learn anything from wins, right? Like it's like if you beat 50 people in a row, you're not going to think you have anything to improve on or change.
Exactly. Your ego is
right. And it's like, and you see it all the time. You see it all the time in the fight game where it's just like, oh, like there's somebody for everybody. There's somebody that can beat everybody. And it's like, if you say she could win in and cut off the things, like matchup wise, cut off the things that you're good at, you gotta, then you'll know that you're just gonna, if you fight her again, it's like, well, I'm good at 5 more things now. So can you cut those off?
Yeah. I'm better at these things. And a lot of what I noticed was I was smaller than her. So since I fought, like I weighed in, they weigh you before the fight, like the next day. So after you weigh in, the next day before you head to the event, they weigh you. And I was like 122 pounds. And you could see like on the list what she was. And she was like 8 pounds heavier than me. She was like 129.
She looked enormous on the night.
She had huge legs. And the thing is, at weigh-ins, she looked small, like smaller than me. So I was like, oh, I'm kind of long. Like I can feel it. And the thing is, I never felt like hurt by her. She was just 1 second ahead of me the entire fight. And, that's, I never felt down and out. I just felt like literally 1 step behind. Like she'd hit me and I should be reacting. Instead, I'm like, I got to hit her now. So it was good. It was fun.
So you talked about like learning a lot from that fight. I guess like looking back at it, what were some of the things that you think you did really well and you can build upon?
I think in no fight have I like sat in the pocket and threw strikes. Like I usually like to fight on the outside and like use my legs and then, get a grappling position, and I seem to end up on the ground. So I had never in a fight like threw my hands like that. So, I mean, it was good to get in there and I think I never believed in my strikes enough to like want to go and just like throw my hands, but she forced me to do that. So forcing me, I had to react and punch. And, I think that was the biggest thing. I landed a lot of really great strikes. And even though she may have landed a few more than me, like I landed a lot of good ones. So it was just not having no fear. Like I wasn't afraid going in, like we're building up to it. I was so anxious. This is a huge deal. What am I going to do? I'm going to, am I prepared to go? Like the fear just went out. I was like, oh, I'm just going to have to just throw my hands and go. And that's what I did. So I think that's what I'm proud of the most is just going in there and being confident in, my strikes, even though I may have been 1 second behind.
I think her game plan was obviously to go in there and be big and like lean on you against the cage the entire time, which is obviously, I've never experienced it. I don't plan on experiencing it, but it seems very energy sapping when somebody's that big and just like leaning on you. So to see you kind of break off and be in the pocket and hit her a few times was awesome. And I think you saw her notice it too and put you back on the cage as quick as she could, because it was like, okay, stick to the game plan. Don't want to get hit like that again. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's good to take those positives because it's like you reminded her with a smack in the face to stick to her game plan. You know what I mean? So I think that's a good thing.
Sure. And her game plan was smart. Like, I mean, she watched my fights. She saw, the things that I like to do. And she knew, I like to throw elbows. I like to clinch. I like to do these things. So, hats off to her team and, those people for, game planning right. And I mean, I think that she'll do really well in the UFC. I mean, she's very likable. She, she was yelling at me the entire time.
I don't like her.
She was yelling at me the whole time. But the thing is, everybody liked her from the start. And like, you kind of could pick up that vibe. And like, that's fine. That doesn't bother me. She's likable because she's very like boisterous and loud. And like, when she's around, that she's there. So like, where me, I'm like, what's up, everybody? I'm super excited to be here. Like, this is going to be so fun. But she's very like loud and in your face. And like, they love that kind of person. And I get that. And, that's something that I'm going to have to like learn to be more vocal as, on social media and things like that, like she is. But, she had a story, like her and her husband were both competing. So I think that they kind of had this story and, she was built up, with this momentum because her and her husband were both competing together. So, she fights soon. She has her first MMA UFC fight coming up against a tough chick. Yeah. Girl, she's fighting is really tough. It'll be a good fight. I'm actually looking forward to it. So a fan fight for me.
Plus more game tape on her.
Exactly.
See her again down the line.
Exactly. That's 100% it.
You mentioned that, that her camp kind of trained her pretty well, right? So I guess I'd be interested to hear like, how are you training differently post-fight than you were pre that fight? Because a lot of things change, I would imagine, after a fight of that magnitude.
For sure. So my biggest thing after the fight was gaining 4 to 5 pounds of muscle. So I've been spending a lot of time, obviously, like in the regular gym and, doing pads and doing jujitsu and things like that. But I've been spending most of my time building strength. So 3 times a week, I go to Chelmsford and I work with a strength coach. And, since the fight, I've probably put on 4 to 5 pounds of muscle. So I think it was building. I needed to work on being stronger because I have all the technique and the ability to do it. But the girls that I'm fighting are bigger than me. Like right now, I'm probably, 130. And a lot of that is muscle. A lot of those girls walk around like maybe 135, 137. So they carry a little more weight than me. So my biggest thing was putting on a little weight and gaining muscle and, working on my strength, most importantly. So being more explosive and, strength. And then obviously I still do the pad work and the grappling and those things. And then when it comes to fight camp time, we'll really, chime in on the kind of person I'm fighting. But yeah, most important thing was gaining strength.
It's like your frame is never going to be walking around at 140, but you're saying you could add strength and maybe surprise some people if they come in bigger than you and you go like, well, I have strength. You might not be able to see where I'm putting it, but it's here, and they'll feel it right away. Plus you got a dog,
100%.
which is like it's obviously a huge emotional upside.
Yeah.
Cause it's like an emotional support animal. So you're doing the brain and the body. It works perfectly.
That's right. And it's good. I mean, I needed to build strength. Like that was something that even if you watch the fight over again, like the commentators are saying like Hilarie has all the ability, but she's just smaller and she's not as strong as Cheyenne. And that was definitely true. Like I definitely lacked strength. And I think that's what a lot of people saw. And so that was my biggest focus is, build strength, focus on that. So now I go 3 times a week. I'm dedicated to it. And, even during fight camp, like I was going there during fight camp, but now we were really focusing on specific things, not so much like cardio based and like having a good, energy to keep going during the fight. Now just strength stuff.
So, we were talking about like leading up to that fight. When we spoke to you before, you like what really stuck out in my mind was you really just enjoy being in there. Like, yeah. We walked away from the interview and I said to Dave, I'm like, she is so cool. Like, she's not out to hurt anybody. She's not like intrinsically a malicious person. She just wants to be in there and compete.
Yeah.
So with this being probably the biggest fight of your career, right? How long did it take for that switch to go from like, oh God, this is for UFC. This is on ESPN Plus to, you know what? I actually love being in here.
I think like I knew, obviously I love being in there, but when you get to Vegas and it becomes real and you're, you start getting your tags and you're getting tested for COVID and you have to be here because, and the thing is my coach feels bad about it also because everything was limited because of COVID. So like I couldn't go, there was tons of UFC fighters at the hotel I was at, but you can't see anybody. You can't talk to anybody. You can't socialize with anybody.
You can't immerse yourself in the environment like you normally would be able to. Maybe I'd want to pick
somebody's brain who like has been in the UFC for years. So like I was so limited that I didn't get the full experience, but it was so much where like I got so much alone time with my coaches that I hadn't had like one-on-one time with them that it made me realize how much I really love the sport and like how much they believe in me kind of like reminded me again, like I'm here to do this. And like, regardless of ability and skill and everything, like I'm here because I've earned this opportunity. So I think being there and being with them and like, usually before fights, you see all your teammates and you stop in the gym and you say, hey, what's up? And now you're, isolated with, the people that, have been with you for years. So it kind of like reboosted my energy. And like, I was really excited to fight regardless of how nervous I was to fight.
Plus a great dry run when the opportunity comes around again, like all the pageantry and stuff, you've experienced it now, all the bright lights of the UFC, you've experienced it now, like all I remember this from last time, like not fazed by it as much as you might not in your conscious brain feel like you are. There's probably a part of your brain going like, holy shit. Like, and that's not going to happen the second time because you're like, all right, whatever, I've done all this before. Yeah, exactly. So
and I hadn't fought in a while. So like it'd been like a little over a year. So it was like, all right, so I haven't fought in a while. So this is going to be new again. Am I going to have like, and I think that was a lot of the reason in my fight, my reaction time wasn't as good because I hadn't been in there in a while that it was like, I had to get comfortable in there to kind of like go and move. So because it was so long, it was, the anticipation, I was excited, but I was still like just one step behind.
So I kind of want to transition now to talk about some things that are happening in the UFC before we get to Conor. So, Dave, you can just pump the brakes a little bit. Within the last day or so, UFC removed marijuana from its list of banned substances for drug tests. Would love to get your take on that. Like, what do you think of that move, and will this help athletes in this sport moving forward?
I think that it's a fantastic move because there's so many people I know, like even including myself, like 2 or 3 weeks before the fight, you have to stop smoking weed. And so, because they test you, I mean, they think like it's a perform enhancing drug. And like anyone who smokes weed knows you're really not, if anything, you're paranoid, probably walk into the thing like, oh shit, I'm kind of stoned. But like, there's a lot of people who train. And at the end of the day, like my body's running because I've been exercising so much and I can't relax because of all of the things I've been doing. And I can only imagine if that's happening to me, to other people. So I smoke a little weed to relax, you know, to calm myself down, my brain, my everything. And so I think that it's a huge deal because more than, I think when I was out there, because I asked, you know, what's the deal with the weed situation? Obviously with USADA, I didn't have to go through USADA because it was like a contender series, but usually USADA. And they said that more than like 60% of the UFC smoked weed. So, I mean, I don't think people are going to be getting stoned and going to fight, but then, you know, so I think that it's a good thing. Thank goodness, because they're suspending people for years for having marijuana in their system. So, and then you see like, what's his name has cocaine and he's, you know, still chilling.
You shouldn't be, your career definitely shouldn't be affected by like smoking weed, you know, like there's the career of a fighter is so short that like if you take any time out of it for something stupid like that.
Benefiting fighters. I was even seeing recently Dana White was talking about psilocybin and like mushrooms and like them running tests, like I'm sure at the PI on like people like eating mushrooms and working with CTE and all that stuff. And I mean, it makes sense.
I mean, if it works, do it. And also, I mean, my only criticism of this rule personally is that they didn't just immediately call it the Nate Diaz rule. Because like I just think that would have been
fitting. But they used his picture, which was the best part.
Of course they did. But also you say like I don't think people are walking to fight stoned. I'm like, I don't know, man. Nate might have sparked one right before he walked out.
There was one when he like had a bunch in his system. So, but like even when I would cut weight, sometimes like you're in a bathtub and like sometimes you get out and you have to be covered. And if you just smoke a little weed, you feel all right. Like you're just relaxed. Yeah. You don't think about like my heart's beating out of my chest. My fingers are tingling. Like you go through these phases of your body where like if you smoke, you relax, you kind of chill and you're like, okay, I can lay down and fall asleep a little bit.
And there's recovery elements too, right? Like there's like body recovery elements, which is just fine. That's just the same thing as taking any other supplement really.
And now they mix weed with CBD. So you get like a little bit of both sometimes. So I think if anything, it's benefits. And if you don't want to smoke weed, don't smoke weed.
Is this a step, do you think, to try and eliminate like the use of like painkillers by fighters in UFC? Because I know like in pro wrestling, right, they have a huge problem, always did, with painkillers and they drug test for weed. So now like UFC is saying that we're going to remove that. I think just as a fan, it's like, okay, guys, like no more somas, no more pills, like just smoke the weed.
Yeah, I think that could definitely happen. And I mean, it's always an issue. You know, a lot of, you know, fighters, you know, tear their knee. They have to get surgery after they go through all these injuries. You know, their body takes so much impact and harm over time, you know, then you get surgery, you're taking Percocet, you're taking this or that. Then you're, you know, I 100% think it'll be a good thing.
The reason why I asked that is because Spencer Fisher had an article this week. He was talking with MMAfighting.com about his traumatic brain injury from fighting, how it affected his life, opening up to the damage that fighters take. So it looks like it kind of sent shockwaves through the entire fighter community. So I guess my question would be, how better would his life or career have been, right, had he not been forced to take, or 30, I think he took 30 pills a day because he was in so much pain.
Wow. Yeah. Way beneficial. I mean, imagine what that does to your body, taking 30 pills a day. I mean, you're consuming so much that's, you know, like it's chemistry, like they're mixing things and putting shit all together. I mean, I can't even imagine taking 30 because I don't even like taking like 8 vitamins, you know, let alone, and that's good for my body, let alone putting a bunch of things inside. I think, I didn't know 30 pills a day. I'll have to read that article.
Yeah. So, and one of the focal points of the article was obviously about CTE and traumatic brain injury and just how it has really impacted his life, not only his fighting career that he had to cut short, but also like who you are as a person. It changes you. So one of his talking points in the article was that he remembers the first time that he was knocked out, right? And that was probably the start of the end for his career. And he was talking about the fact that the minute you get into the octagon and you start worrying about the damage that is being done to you, it's over. So I guess, just a natural question for me have you ever thought about that, like while in there?
I've never thought about, being injured. Sometimes after, though, like once you're beat up and like you feel your head and you have like lumps and like random lumps, sometimes you don't know, like chaos movement, like, and you feel lumps and you're like, ooh, like my dome, like my brain, what's important to me, it's here, it's getting rocked around. And like, I think a lot of what is starting to slow down is that what the training used to be. And I mean, even so now, like people train to hurt each other. And it's like, for me, it's like, I want to train smart so that when I go and I fight on fight night, I know that I'm as mentally, prepped in there as possible instead of, beating the shit out of each other in practice. Cause there's, benefits to that, but there's really no benefit to that. I mean, you got to see openings and be aware. I think that's probably part of it too. Like bad training sessions, like teammates that are going way too hard. And, then if a teammate's going way too hard, you don't want to be the person who's saying, don't be going so hard. It's because
you're still in a fight in there. So you're just, and your natural competition is going to come out. But I've noticed
ego, someone hits you hard, you want to hit them hard back.
Sure. You're not going to be able to like not react to that. But
yeah,
I think, even Max Holloway was talking this week about, he doesn't spar at all anymore.
Which, by the way, he's fighting Calvin Kattar, who's a Boston guy.
Yeah, we're going to talk about
fight,
that.
So
we're going to talk about that.
About that.
It's on the docket. No worries. It was interesting in what he was saying because he didn't spar at all prior to the Volkanovski 2 fight, which I think he won, even though he didn't win it on the card.
It was a crazy fight.
Yeah. And it was a great fight. And for him to not spar at all in the lead up to that was so surprising to hear from me. And it's like, if you're Max Holloway, unless you have people, and I'm sure this is true of you as well, unless you have people you trust that you're sparring with, rolling with, like doing training with, if you get some rando in there that's like, whoa, I get to spar with Max Holloway today, there's a good chance he's going to be like, let me go knock out Max Holloway. That's a feather in my cap.
Yeah, that happens all the time because people have egos. They want to see what they can do to compete against, high level. That happens with even just jujitsu, like black belts, grappling. Like you get a black belt and people, the white belt wants to go with the black belt and see how well they can do with them. And, they want to try to kill them because they're just like, what can I do? Can I get a better position? Can I pick up on this?
Not very well would be my prediction. Usually.
Yeah. No, usually the black belt will play with them a little bit and then.
Yeah. I don't think there's another sport or martial art than jiu-jitsu where the disparity in skill level is so immediately obvious. Like, when you're standing up with somebody, it's like, oh, they're kind of walking around each other. If you're wrestling, it's like that guy looks a little stronger. I feel like a black belt in jiu-jitsu can like end the jiu-jitsu session so much more quickly and efficiently than like any other aspect of MMA. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the thing about jiu-jitsu is it's awareness of the body. So when you can feel body to body when you're striking, right? I mean, there's distance there. So when you feel body to body, control and movement. And I mean, definitely like even my coach has been saying lately, like he's been grappling that he has the hardest rounds. He's a black belt with purple belts right now. Like it's not even the brown belts. It's like people in the middle he has the hardest rounds with right now. So it's funny how like you get from white belts, you're scrappy and you're moving all over the place. And then you go to your blue belt and it's whether you choose to stay or leave. And then you kind of get better. And then that purple belt's like that. Oh, I'm almost there midway.
Sweet spot.
Yeah. Right.
So knowing like, I just think to myself, like walking into an octagon, right? Which I'll never do. I promise I'll never embarrass myself that way. But you have to be so knowledgeable about everything that can happen in there, about the skill sets, the moves that can come, be coming at you. How dangerous do you think it is to step in the octagon if your head is just thinking in the back of your mind, you're just thinking, I just really hope I don't get hit. Like, I hope I don't get
yeah, you shouldn't fight if that happens. Yeah. Definitely. And if you're thinking it that night, I mean, you're probably thinking it ahead of the fight. So if you're going in thinking that way, like, I mean, obviously anxiety and nerves pop in. Like I say to my coach all the time, you think I'm ready? You think it's going to be okay? Am I going to win this fight? And they're like, yeah, of course. But then I'm like, I don't want to fight tonight. Like, all right, let's go home. And I'm like, no, like, I obviously want to fight tonight, but my nerves are kicking. But yeah, if you're throughout camp and you're constantly having that in your mind, yeah, you definitely shouldn't fight that night. And you're going to hopefully, like, your coaches are going to pick up on that and like get that vibe. Because I think that's really important. The vibe that you have with your coaches, they'll pick up on if you're feeling ready to fight or if something's wrong. I think with a camp, so many emotions and so much time and effort and discipline go into it, they'll pick up on like things like that.
It's part of their job to protect you from yourself too.
Definitely. Because I actually had that conversation with my coach the other day, because I'm crazy. I like overthink everything. And I'm like, do you think because I'm not seeing the openings, it's because I get hit in the head too much? And like, now I'm not thinking about it. He's like, no. He's like, if I thought you were getting hit in the head too much and you had like CTE, I'd sit you down and tell you, I don't think you should fight anymore. And I was like, all right. Okay, I understand. He's like, you have lots of time until that happens.
There's guys at the top that I don't understand how their coaches still let them go in there. The amount of times I've seen Alistair Overeem, I make the joke when I watch the cards to whoever's watching with me. I'm like,
it's hard.
if you get sent to the shadow realm, you go to a bar and Alistair Overeem is there, like polishing a glass, asking you what you want to drink. Because like that guy has been sent there so many fucking times. I've seen him get knocked out to the point where I'm like, please just stop punching him in the face.
Even Diego Sanchez, another one.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be fighting anymore.
No. I mean, he took that elbow from Matt Brown, and I think that should have been it. I think you ever get knocked out like that, I don't think you're ever coming back the same, And it's like...
And you see some of them, and it's sometimes hard to watch. Like, that they're fighting that night, and I'm like, usually I'd be pumped to watch, but I don't want to.
Yeah, it's like the last time Tito Ortiz fought Chuck Liddell. I watched it, and I was like, I'm worse for watching that. I don't think I should have watched that. I don't think anyone should have watched that.
No, I agree. I know. It's, yeah.
How hard is it to do, like, as someone that's in the camp, right? Because I think as a fighter, you can get, like, what getting up for a fight feels like, right? So it's almost like you can kind of fake it until you make it, and you rely on the training that you're going through to get you there, right? So how hard do you think it is for people in your camp or people that you trust to say, like, listen, Hilarie, I just don't think you're just not into this one. Like, maybe we should sit it out.
Super hard. But I think that you trust them enough to know, because I mean, that's personally never happened to me, but it's even like you see some fights like where, they're getting really beat up in the fight, and then the corner has to like wave the white flag, like, that type of thing. I think that there's so many moments when that probably should have happened and then didn't happen. But like the coaches that do that, takes everything in them in order to do that, because that the fighter probably doesn't want to stop, but you see the damage that's happening and they're just not aware of it at the time. So I think that it's probably such a hard thing to do, but you trust them. So, all right, if you think that it's not, the time for me to fight, or that I'm done, then all right, I guess I'm done. But the thing about that happens is people don't believe you, or they get angry at you, and then they leave the gym and they go to another gym, and then they just fight, with another, person, another coach.
That's what I was going to say. It's like if I'm thinking about Spencer Fisher, right? If I'm him and my coach says, listen, dude, I don't think you're into this. I'd say, like, I know me better than you know me. So how, like, I guess at what point, I don't know if maybe even you can answer this question, but at what point do you say, like, they're right? They know what's best for me more than I do.
I think you would have to believe them in that moment. Like, at least from a personal level, I've been with my coaches since I was 14. So if they, sat me down and they said that, I think I'd trust them. Like, I think I'd be heartbroken, of course, but I'd have to just choose a career in, coaching, and still, put myself in that, obviously martial arts, because that's what I am and who I am. So I couldn't go, like, get an office job. I'd have to just stay in the martial arts, or open a gym, or invest my time that I did in fighting into, helping other fighters, I guess.
It's got to be the hardest part of their job, doing stuff like that.
No doubt. And I've had someone at my gym where we've said you shouldn't fight.
That can't be fun. That can't be fun for them to say, or for them to hear. And it's like, you talk about throwing in the towel in a fight, there's so much debate about that when it happens.
So much. And it's short, like, periods of time that you have to choose.
But those coaches, they were there for all that work. You know what I mean? Like, they're as invested in some ways as the fighter. They're like, dude, this is what I've been doing for the past, like, sometimes years of my life with this kid or this guy or this girl or whatever. So it's just as hard for them to throw in the towel too. Cause it's like, damn, dude, like, I really want to see him pull this out, Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, they're just as invested. They have to be just as invested as you are. I mean, if they aren't, then, your coach, you got to second guess coaches,
Trust is paramount.
It's key. And you see a lot of people, I think I had this conversation with you last time, is like, people gym bounce, or they think like, I need to be at a gym with a big name because there's lots of fighters there, where, you're just kind of another fish in a fishbowl. But like here, I have a personal relationship with my coaches, and, I get so much one-on-one time because there isn't, 15 other fighters fighting for the same time or for the same coach. So don't you want to train and you'll get more fun, training with other people? I don't think I need high-end people in order to, get to the top. I think that if I train right and I do the right work and I'm disciplined, that I can, get there, and I don't need, the best in the world to get me there.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I know we're going to talk a lot about Conor McGregor, but just to bring that back to Conor McGregor, because he's mainly at the forefront of my brain right now. I mean, he came up beating up plumbers and rugby players in Ireland for the first, I don't know, 15 years of his career, So it's they can fly guys in from Serbia or some shit now, but he had to just beat up guys on his street.
Same with example Dustin Poirier. He was in Fight World. Did you ever see that documentary? Great documentary. Not Fight World, Fightville. No, Fightville. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the one he was in, and and he was so young. Yeah.
So young, and he came from nothing, basically. Same thing at the gym, lived a tough life, same sort of thing. So it's cool that they're fighting each other again, and it's been so long. I'm pumped about it too.
Well, Dave, I feel like we've kept you waiting long enough to talk about Conor. So Hilarie, get ready for this, because this is going to be a wild ride with DK talking about Conor. Saturday, January 23rd, we have the notorious Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier in a rematch of 6 years ago.
I know. I can't believe that.
My question to you to open it up, based on what you've seen so far, what Conor McGregor is walking into the octagon on Saturday?
I can imagine that the best version of Conor McGregor is probably walking into the cage on Saturday. And the thing is, I love Conor McGregor and I love Dustin Poirier, whatever they call him. I also love him. So the thing is, I feel like I favor Conor McGregor because he's just a more popular, likable person. Or it's not even that he's likable. He's just sellable to, his crazy talk and all this shit. And I think, same with Dustin, Dustin came from nothing, but they had that fight to start and it happened so quick, Conor comes in there and he sees the target, it's over. That's, you know what I mean? He sees the target and it's over. And I mean, I can imagine that Dustin's plan is maybe get him to the ground and, hold him there, beat him up on the ground. But you also know Dustin also wants to stand and prove himself like always and throw hands.
Okay. So you talk about plans though. I have this I've just been doing body language detection all week, basically. I've watched every Dustin video, every Conor video.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there like a forensic scientist. Yeah. So I'm sitting there and I'm starting to try to think like Conor McGregor thinks. What's he thinking about? Because I'm not saying he's looking past Dustin, because that's obviously never a good idea. And I think he's smart enough to know, but I think he understands where Dustin is in the lightweight rankings. And I think he understands if he goes out there and performs the same way he did against Cowboy, the same way he did against Jose Aldo, he knows how to elevate himself at in any time with a fight. He can talk all he wants. Elevating himself in the fight's the only thing that matters. So in saying that, I think I have a sneaking suspicion. So gamblers at home, if you guys want to put a little bet on this, I think that we're going to see Conor McGregor's first UFC submission win a week from Saturday. Yeah. Okay. So here's why.
Because I see that too.
Yeah, because what has he had to work on? Why has he had to work so much for the last year, 2 years? Khabib, if he needs to get that Khabib
rematch. Khabib was his last fight, right? Khabib was his last fight
before Cerrone. He knocked out Cerrone with his shoulder, which was fucking hysterical, and I loved every second of that one.
I love Cerrone too.
I know, me too. I love him so much. He's so lovable, but I knew exactly how that fight was going to go. But I loved him up until fight night with Conor McGregor, and then I was like, I don't care about him anymore. But I think what he's going to do is he's going to try and soften. Obviously, you get in there, everybody's got a plan so you get punched in the face. But I think his ideal world is he goes in there, he softens Dustin up like he did before, and then instead of finishing him, getting him down, doing the same thing, because that's just we've seen that movie already. He knows what the fans want. You've seen that technique where guys are softened up and then you go right into a submission, right? And it's your head is swimming. You don't do the right stuff. I think he could choke out a slightly unconscious Dustin Poirier. I wouldn't want to see him rolling around down there with him, because
and we've
Dustin's
seen
very
Dustin
dangerous.
Submitted before, so I mean,
right. And he's got that button like we were talking about. You get knocked out a couple times, that chin weakens, and it's you hit him with a couple of those, and it's ooh, a submission highlight would be cool.
The amount of power that Conor packs is ridiculous. And the thing about Conor is he never rushes, where Dustin is sometimes guilty of that, where like he starts and he throws a lot of strikes and this and that, where Conor is very like, he'll come out, do his shit. He'll throw one or he'll throw two. And then it's like, boop.
I find it terrifying how calm Conor McGregor is when he gets in there.
He's so calm. And that's the thing is I think that's what throws people off too, because they anticipate this like wild shit talking.
What they've seen all week. And that's exactly what happened to Dustin the first time, right? He was like, "Oh, we're gonna go," and then he got in there and Conor was just.
He gets very emotional. Dustin gets emotional.
Totally. Hopefully he doesn't this time because they've been super cool to each other.
Yeah, I know, because I think a lot of the money goes to a foundation.
Charity, yeah. The Fight Foundation, which is Dustin Poirier's charity, which is cool. I mean, they're older now, and they already fought once. And
Conor isn't even old. Conor's like 31.
I know. He looks great.
Like when he was 28, like a few years ago, like he's 28. Like he's crushing people.
I know, but he also like, I feel like, I'm of the fan base where it's like, I was into the Floyd fight, but I'm like, I just want to see him fight.
What do you think about the Paul brothers and all their?
Oh my God. Oh no, God, no. Jesus Christ, no. He can send some of his posse to take care of them. Dylan Dennis would beat that guy, Jake Paul or whatever.
Yeah. I think easily, but they're all yelling. They all want to fight all the fight.
I mean, it's a lot of money, but like, does he want to? He would make himself into a little bit of a joke for the build up to that fight, And it's like, you don't want to be talking shit to a YouTuber, dude. Like you're in there with Dustin Poirier. He's one of the most dangerous men on the planet. Like that's the guy. That's the Conor I want to see. I want to see him test himself against real fighters.
And I think he will be tested, but I definitely see a finish. I don't think it goes 5 rounds. I definitely think it's a finish, no doubt.
I mean, objectively, looking back at like Diaz 2, great war. People say some people say it went one way, but he dug deep and he showed a championship medal in there. I was a mess that night. It's like I just wanted
He's a completely different fighter from that night too. Totally different fighter from that night.
I can't do 5 rounds. I need him to be done because that morning, I'm not gonna sleep. I'm gonna be all jittery. I'm gonna be like, just get him out of there, Conor, please. I'm gonna
make sure I shoot you a message and I go, fucking Conor.
Please do. I need all the emotional support I can get. A picture of the dog, that would work.
Yes, Thug is the dog.
I think like the first fight, right? I think. I'm not as big of a Conor fan as DK is, but it was evident that Conor lived rent free in Dustin's head from the press
100%.
conference, and from like the first 90, the first 10 seconds of that fight, Dustin gave up control. Like Conor always knows what he wants to do. And he lets you know exactly what he's going to do.
100%.
You just have to stop him. And Dustin was not trying to. He was trying to one-up him, and I think that's that was the downfall. So this time, Dustin has a lot to prove. And in my opinion, when he gets in the octagon, is he going to let Conor dictate the pace? Because if that happens, I don't think it's going to go past round 2.
I think it's hard not to let Conor dictate the pace. I think is the problem. I think that he can assert his dominance on a fight. And I think that you've seen that. And like everybody's got a plan against him. And the only people that really have been able to beat him are Nate Diaz when the plan didn't go well because he's like a zombie and you can punch him in the face all night and he's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So he had to adjust. And Khabib, who's like the most, dominant wrestler the sport has ever seen. And I personally, maybe I'm biased. You guys tell me. I personally think if he fought Khabib again, he would win. Why? Because he looked like shit in the first one. He was like drinking proper 12 that whole month. I full on believe that.
How do you think he does with Justin Gaethje?
I think he starches Gaethje. Absolutely starches him.
Oh.
Absolutely starches him.
With those leg kicks, I don't know.
Did you see Gaethje against Khabib? It was embarrassing. It was of all the top lightweights that fought Khabib, he put the worst performance
Justin
in.
Gaethje.
Part
of Team Trevor Whitman. That's my team.
Yeah,
I love that.
Fair enough. But he's a good dude. He's obviously a good person.
Yeah. But those leg kicks, they were hurting Khabib.
Yeah. It's just once he got down there, there was just he needs.
No one can get up.
Yeah, I just think that as a Conor homer, Justin was walking around with the interim belt going, oh yeah, Conor wants to fight me now. Conor doesn't call the shots. I call the shots. And it's like, dude, you're not going to be on a box of fucking Wheaties anytime soon. Like it's not, you don't call the shots, bro. Like this is not how that works. Like you can't, like if you texted Dana White, like, about like fighting Conor McGregor, Dana would have to check with Conor.
No way. Conor wins this fight. He fights Justin Gaethje.
For the title, though. Has to be for the title.
No, it's definitely for the title. Whoever wins this fight will fight Justin Gaethje for the title because Khabib retired.
But here's the weird thing, though. What about that co-main that night? Because they're trying to elevate that Michael Chandler guy up, the dude that just came over from Bellator.
I don't think they give him the title shot right away. I think he wins one. They give him another top 5, and then
Do you think he's going to beat Hooker? Hooker's good.
No, honestly, Hooker's one of my favorites. So I have Hooker for that fight. I like Michael Chandler too, and they're throwing him to the wolves right away, and I'm not surprised. And the thing is, I definitely think it's a winnable fight for Michael Chandler, but I fucking like Hooker.
I haven't really seen him fight a lot. Is he like who in the
fucking? You have to watch his fights. Go home tonight. His last fight was against not that long ago. Who fucking was it?
It was a Bellator guy though, right? Because he hasn't fought in the UFC yet.
No, not Michael Chandler. Dan Hooker.
Oh, Dan Hooker. Yeah. Well, he lost to Poirier.
Was that his last fight?
Yeah, that was his last fight. But it was a great fight. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
it was
that's
an awesome fight.
Yeah, but no, Michael Chandler hasn't fought in the UFC. He was going to fight for the title if something happened with Khabib and Justin, right? He was at like Abu Dhabi or whatnot.
He'll go in as a replacement, which is, I guess, fine.
Which is crazy because I feel like that would annoy some other people.
Yeah, that's true. I just think that, and because like Tony still deserves it, even though he hasn't put in a couple good performances.
Yeah, I think he has a while till he gets that again. And then
unfortunately. Yeah. And then Gaethje, I think you're right. I think Gaethje's still thereabouts.
But I really like Oliveira, and I really think he's great.
He looked super fucking dangerous against
great.
Tony.
All his fights are really good, and I could see him. I think he could be a problem for Conor. Sorry.
Line them up. Doesn't matter to me. Doesn't matter who's in there. They're all going to get it. Any one of these mouthy fools can get it.
Conor thinks the same thing. Bring him in.
Line them up. Let's go.
I know that you're super impartial, DK, but like I guess one of the things that's come out over the last couple of days is Dana White's been talking to Khabib and saying that if Conor wins, can he come back and fight Conor for the title?
That's all fucking smoke and mirrors. That's all like they released a video today of fucking Dana taking Khabib into a room and he's like, just closing the door. What a load of shit. They've been talking for weeks.
I think that if that happens, it's either going to be GSP and Khabib or Khabib and Conor.
It has to be Conor, right? It has to be Conor.
GSP, I would love to see that. I really would love to see
it happen. Like, I mean, I don't know that's going to happen, but it's what people talk about. And like, everyone's like, oh, retired, the best of the best.
But 30 is such a nicer number, though, isn't it? Young Khabib than 29. Come on back in. Get that 30 against Conor. You'll definitely get it.
Told his dad he would get 30, but his mom's the one who doesn't want him to fight again. But moms are easily convincible.
Yeah, sure. And who wants to hear your fucking life story? Just go in there and do your samba. Who gives a fuck? Just like, I don't care what your mom says. So just go do your thing. It's great.
Do what you're the best in the world at.
To be fair, though, if he stays retired and Conor goes and beats everybody else, in his mind, he could delegitimize Conor because he's like, well, you never beat me. I retired because my mommy said I had to, though.
I mean, and they'll pay him crazy amounts of money. The UFC will just throw money at.
He says he doesn't care about money, but I don't actually believe that anyone doesn't care about money. Like, at least a little.
Because he was saying before, I wanted to fight Conor McGregor for da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, it's a full. You got a great Rocky IV right there. Like you did a full on Ivan Drago. I loved it.
So Hilarie, I assume that you think Conor's going to win, right?
The thing is, I think Conor is going to win.
Yeah, get off the fence, Hilarie. Come on over with us.
I think
we're great
Conor
fun.
Will definitely win. I think he has the power and the patience to wait for the right timing. But I do think that Dustin is going to bring a fight. So I think it goes maybe like 3 rounds. 3 rounds.
Dustin will perform better than last time, though. I agree with it. I agree with that.
They're totally different fighter, 6 years, like you said, and he's working with Mike Brown, who's fucking like coach of the year for years and like crazy good team. So
what does this do to the landscape of this division, right? Let's say if the shocking event happens and Dustin wins, like where does this division go from here? Because if Conor wins, I mean, I think he's the most marketable UFC star in history and for the foreseeable future. But if Dustin wins, then what? Like, what happens to Conor? What happens to the next title fight?
I think that it'll probably be Oliveira who will fight Dustin if they win. If Dustin wins.
Which is, I think he'll probably fight Oliveira either way.
Me too. I do too. But I think Oliveira is the next person who's kind of up there because Dustin already beat Justin. So that fight's not going to happen right away. And I think that it's probably Oliveira or Michael Chandler. You know, it's possible that it's Michael Chandler or I guess Dan Hooker. Oh, but they already fought. But I mean, I guess it's.
But you can run that back because it was a good fight. And I was looking at the as the Wednesday card is Magny versus Chiesa, and you're looking at those guys, and they're good. Like they're good fighters, and they're like 8-9 or 7-8 in the rankings at lightweight. But it's like what the outcome of that fight means basically nothing to the lightweight landscape because there's so many killers in the top 5. You know, and they're bringing
there's
more
so many
roster
killers
in
all the divisions right now in like the top 5. It's so crazy. Every division, it's who's going to fight who next.
Yeah, the talent pool is nuts. I mean, welterweight hasn't moved in a while, and any fight they make there is sick.
Yep.
Featherweight hasn't moved in a while, and we'll see. You know, Max and let's talk about your boy, your Boston boy. I've only seen him fight a couple times, but like, what do you think?
He's awesome. I think that he has a really, really good chance of beating Max Holloway. I think that he has better boxing, and I think that he wrestles. I mean, I don't work with him, personally, but I mean, I know him, and I know a few people who train with him, and I think that he could beat him. I think that
his boxing is crisp. He
has great boxing. He knows
his accuracy
the
is
inside,
off the charts,
and he throws elbows on the inside, which a lot of people don't do. And he's tough and he's big. And even though I saw that Max was taller than him, Max also has like a really giant head, and like, but I think Max could win by like output. Like he puts a lot of output. He's always punching and kicking and moving and going and a lot of output. But I think that the output will leave him open, and I think Calvin will take advantage. And I think that if
Max
Calvin
is
wins,
hittable,
he's hittable, and you've seen him get hit by someone who's shorter.
I didn't know it was because he had a giant head, and then like I'm similarly afflicted with a giant head, so like my heart does go out to Max. But I didn't know that was the reason. But that does make a lot of sense now that you said it.
It does. Like you look at him, I think I've said this. I haven't said this. I've heard this in like maybe on a Joe Rogan podcast or something that like people that are Hawaiian are born differently and they have like bigger heads, and that could be a myth. Like, but I
must have some Hawaiian in me then because my head is like 4 times the size it should be.
I think that like the Hawaiian heads, like you see some of the fighters and their heads are like a little bigger.
That's a huge myth in wrestling too. Samoans like the Rock,
right?
Always have tough heads to crack. So I would never want to probably punch one of those people in the head.
It probably hurts.
Yeah, definitely hurts.
Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt your Max Holloway fight, but I do want to talk just one question for me. Because I want to root for Dustin because DK.
Of course you do, you fucking asshole.
Right.
Oh my God, you're a bad friend.
So Hilarie, I want to put you on the spot here, right?
Sure.
I want you to sell me on what Dustin has done since the last meeting with Conor, as to why he could win this fight.
All right, so there's pros and cons of this because they both have gotten the belts. They've both
see how hard for this is for her to do, Mike, because she knows that there's only one real champ in the whole world. Anyway, I'll let her go. Sorry.
Yeah.
The thing is, I wish I had like the lineup of all of Dustin Poirier's most recent fights. I should have pulled it up. But the thing is, I think that Dustin Poirier's boxing has improved drastically since all of his other fights. And I mean, I feel like we see him on the ground, but we don't see him on the ground that often. But I mean, Conor also has had fights where he's exposed a lot of things. And I think that if Dustin Poirier can, expose those things, and take advantage of that, then I mean, a fight's a fight and like anything can happen. I think, we always say, we think this person's going to win. We think this person's going to win, but I think that his boxing has definitely improved. I mean, he had decent boxing anyway, and I don't think he has to really stress about his wrestling because his wrestling is going to be better than Conor's, even though Conor, I'm sure, has improved.
Maybe not. He's been working on it.
Well, you're right. You're no doubt though. Like he had good sprawls in one of his fights, Conor, so he was defending really well. So I think that if Dustin can put him on the cage and hold him and maybe get him down, he could maybe not finish him on the ground, but could beat him up a good bit on the ground. And then I think for Dustin to win, it goes 5 rounds. I think for Conor to win, it's probably fewer.
Now, DK, because I'm magnanimous and generous, and I believe in equality. Tell me why, and tell us why Conor's going to win.
Because he's the baddest motherfucker on the planet. This is like simple as that. No, I mean, look, if you're Dustin Poirier, and like, again, I would defer to the expert in our esteemed guest, Hilarie Rose, about this, but I can guess with just using common sense, if a dude has separated you from your consciousness before in such a public and an embarrassing way,
there's definitely already a mind fucking.
And then there's no way to avoid the clip of you getting popped behind the ear by this guy who was literally in the fight calling you a pussy as they were fighting. He's like, let's go, pussy. And I'm like, ah! I've watched it about 30 times this week.
See, this is why people like the girl that I've fought, because they say the same chick. Get the fuck up, do this. It's all likable. See, people love that.
It is likable. It totally is likable. Except when she said that to you, I didn't like it. Of course. But depends on the context. We know each other
on a personal level.
Yeah, it's context related for me. I'm a total homer. But he's going to see the clip all week of him getting fucking clipped behind the ear and going unconscious. Now, if he wants to use that as motivation, great. Like, that's awesome. But I don't know, man. If someone's already knocked you out in that space of time, you can improve all you want. But it's not like Conor. Everyone's been talking about how much Dustin's improved, and I don't think that that's not true. I think he has improved a lot, but so has Conor. He's gotten a lot better as time went on, and he's also been spending most of his time training for that big fucking Russian bear. So, like, whatever, I feel like if you're training to fight Khabib and he genuinely believes he can fight Khabib, you better be able to beat up fucking Dustin Poirier. You know what I mean? Like, you better be able to. So we'll see. I think he could. I think he's right. And when he says shit like that, when he starts going like 60 seconds, I'm like, I believe you, sir. Like, I can't help it. So it's like,
he plays with the mind fuck.
Yeah. It snuck up on me, this one, because usually for like 6 weeks I'm like Conor, but like maybe because of COVID and all the mad shit that's going on in the world, like on this one past couple of weeks it was only like the other day that I was like, it's happening. Anyway, what was your question, Mike? What was your question? Why is he gonna win? Because of course he's gonna fucking win, because he's Conor McGregor. That's why.
Just one question, and you're not gonna like the question. I'm not doing it to be an asshole. Just remember that. What happens to Conor if he loses? Like, where does he go from here in UFC if he loses?
Basically nothing. It doesn't matter when he loses. His brand doesn't move.
Another year off and then comes back.
Yeah, like he finds a way to rationalize it. He goes and boxes Manny Pacquiao. He goes and I don't know what he does with his spare time, like washes himself with $100 bills. I don't know, nothing. Everything will be fine for him. It doesn't matter at all, which is what's so impressive about him. Like, how do you get motivated if you're Conor McGregor? You know what I mean? You wake up, he has so much money.
I know, but that's why he's motivated. He can make more. He knows how to.
Half a billion in that whiskey, and I love Conor McGregor, if you haven't been able to tell, but I've loved whiskey for longer, and that Proper 12 tastes like fucking piss. But I'm still going to fucking buy a bottle of it and drink it on the day in honor of the man himself. All right, fair. So, as long as I'm a consumer, that's all you care about.
I've never tried it. But even if it sucks, look at that. You'll still go out and buy it, and that's what he knows. He goes, this is shit, but they'll still buy it.
That's right. I'm going to fucking drink it, and I'm not going to like it, but I'm going to drink it.
So Hilarie, DK and I have been talking a little bit about this. He is like I said, the bigger Conor guy. Obviously, you can tell by the recent change in his accent. But for me, isn't there is a little bit of like a new attitude or a new rhetoric coming out of Dustin's camp? Doesn't it feel like he is more confident, or he is a different fighter than he was 6 years ago? Because for me, it's like, well, this isn't the same guy that was tricked by Conor 6 years ago. He's not going to fall for that.
Way less emotional. I think he knows he's had so many fights since that Conor fight and had so many ups and downs between that time also, like that this is just a fight for him. I think he knows that it's a good payday, it's a good whatever, but he's not emotional. And I think that when he's not emotional, he fights better, just like anybody. When you fight with emotion, that's when you're falling into traps, and then, you see that those other people are going to take advantage of those openings. So I think he's way less emotional. And if he is emotional, he's very much hiding it well, so that it's not feeding into Conor. I'm sure is like, yeah, you seem calm. This is cool. I'm still going to fuck you up. Do you know what I mean?
He is very calm about it. And I do actually like his game plan, because it kind of comes down to that, right? It's like, Do you think he beat him the first time because he got in his head, which is the kind of pretty common narrative? Or do you think it's because he was the better fighter? And I think that's the interesting narrative. You know, you were talking earlier about establishing a narrative going into a fighter as a fighter. That's the interesting narrative here for all of us.
Yeah.
What's the difference now? And I think what Conor's trying to do, at least with the buildup for now, I don't know how press conferences are going to go or whatever. He's trying to go like, let's take that out of it. And I'm going to go and beat him fair and square, which I think for brand, for legacy, I think that's what he has to do. You know, like if he psychs him out twice, everybody clowns on Dustin, but he doesn't get as much credit, you know? So I think go fight him fair and square. He wants the best version of Dustin, I think, as a competitor.
I think so too.
Yeah. And I think that I respect that, you know, but I also obviously love when he does anything.
And I also think Conor knows this is a winnable fight for him because he's won before. So, I mean, regardless of like what preparation Dustin has, when you've won a fight against someone, you know, you're confident going into it anyway. So
I think he knew he was going to lose against Khabib the first time, or Habib the first time. I think that he says a lot about, I wasn't really preparing. I wasn't this. That's all kind of, I think, smoke and mirrors. I think he did train. He might have not trained as well as he liked or whatever. But I think he was like, I don't have the skill set to beat this dude. And he only found the motivation to fight him after he lost the first time. Because you remember, that's the first fight after the Floyd Mayweather fight.
Right.
So how, like, he's freshly counting $100 million at that point, you know, and it's that stuff's going through his head. I also think he knew he was going to lose against Mayweather. I think I could see it in his face. Like he was like, I don't know. I just have to go in there and kind of perform and not get completely embarrassed. And I've won, you know, essentially, because this isn't my sport.
I mean, he had okay moments during it, you know, he hit him a few times. So,
he did. And also, it's a win-win for him because he can always just like he can fall back to the schoolyard. He's like, if we actually fought though, I'd fucking kill you, just so you know. So it's a win-win. He's like, I would just take your arm home with me as a trophy. So don't even worry about it, about the like boxing with big pillows on it.
Money for him, and it means just like it's just another opportunity for him to then box again against somebody else and make money,
right? Like Manny or whatever, because they're represented by the same agency. So I think that's inevitable. That's an inevitable fight that's going to happen.
He's smart. He knows what to do.
He's so smart. And he's handsome.
We get it. It's probably now I don't know if he did this, then it's the smartest thing ever. But if he was leading up to the Habib fight, right? If he knew that he was going to lose, how smart is that to go in there and just see what Habib can do? Because now he's got it down for the next fight. If there is a next fight, he knows exactly what he's going to do. It's like doing your recon, right? Like I just want to learn my enemy. Mm-hmm. I think if there is a second fight, now I'm not the biggest Conor McGregor fan. Obviously, that's DK. I think Conor wins decisively, and because of what happened last time, he does not make the same mistake twice, typically in a fight or against the same opponent. So if there is Conor Habib 2, because I think that's what's going to happen after this. I think Habib's going to unretire.
Well, I think he was surprised, though. Even if he did do that, now that's some pretty 3D chess, so I'm not saying he did do that, but I think he was pretty surprised that Habib was able to say no to the rematch. Because usually when Conor says, I want a fucking rematch, he gets it right away. And as much as he definitely got his ass kicked by Habib the first time, he still did better than most everybody else.
I don't know. I'll fight that Ally Quinta. I mean, went 5 rounds.
That was weird, though. Like, what the fuck?
I mean, I can't even... Like, I watched that fight and I go, Ally Quinta did a good job in this fight. He got up, he kept fighting. I mean, and that's exhausting to try to get Khabib off of you. Most people don't get up. They give up their back, they this and that. And
that was weird, though, because then Cowboy went and you can't really do this math, I know. Like, it's all matchups, but Ally Quinta is not, like, at that level. It was, like, ludicrous that they were even
But he had
fighting.
good wrestling. He knew how to get up and move. And on 6 days' notice against Khabib, and he didn't get finished, where you see all of them, everybody.
I concede that. He had definitely had the most impressive performance against Khabib. As far as relevant people go, Conor had the most impressive performance against Khabib.
Have you had any rematches? Like, I can't think off the top of my head. No, right?
I don't respect his resume, to be 100% honest with you. I think lately he's beaten really good guys, but I think it was fucking tin pots before that. Listen, obviously I'm anti-Khabib.
Right.
Obviously. But he's a very impressive wrestler. Like, I get it.
Yeah, he knows how to lock you down, and there's like that leg cross. He knows exactly what to do and to hold you there.
And he's always trying to improve position. Always trying to improve position, always trying to move. Like, people that say he's boring, I don't think that that's a fair assessment, because I think he is always trying to do stuff. He's always trying to isolate limbs.
And he goes, I'm going to kill you. This is my belt. Like
Yeah.
he talks
I didn't
with-
like when he was doing that to Conor, though. I was like, stop talking to him. This is embarrassing.
Because that's what Conor usually does to everybody else.
I know.
It was like watching
was
your
karma.
son get beat up in the park.
Kind of.
Are there any? I guess for me, we've kind of talked about this entire fight, right? You both think Conor is going to win. I do too, right? I kind of hope, just for content purposes, that that Dustin wins, because DK will be unbearable.
What content purposes? I won't be able. I'll be inconsolable. I won't come back on the podcast for weeks.
I think we all think Conor's going to win. So for now, Hilarie, I just want to, obviously say thank you so much for joining and talking MMA with us, UFC. For those of you that did not listen to the first episode, please go back and listen to it. You can find that in the show notes. But where can we find you, Hilarie? Where can we learn about you, and what's coming up next for you in terms of fighting?
Okay, so you can find me on Facebook or Instagram at Hilarie Rose MMA. And on Twitter, I don't use Twitter as much, but it's probably Hilarie Rose MMA also. So between when I last fought and now, I actually got a manager. So I have a manager now. So my coaches who were managing me before. So now I have a guy. So I'm under Sucker Punch Entertainment, which has lots of female UFC fighters. So like Wei Lee and Rose Namajunas and Angela Hill. So, I share the same manager as them. So I hope, him and I are building a relationship, and we had hoped to fight in March, but the girl who I was supposed to fight is injured as of now. So we're hoping, we're hoping for March. So, but at this point, we're just kind of trying to stay ready for any moment. So that's kind of what he's told me, is I need to be prepared to kind of make weight on a week notice, and, kind of always be working and grinding, because with COVID, next week someone could get COVID and they need someone to fight. So it's kind of just always being prepared and on my toes and constantly working. So yeah, so hopefully we'll fight soon.
When next fight, once it's booked, come back on. We'll preview that.
Yes, definitely.
Like we did last time. You're our first friend of the show. We have to just keep coming back. We're in the Hilarie Rose business.
Talking with you guys. It's good to talk to, people who like to talk about fights too. And,
yes,
it's fun.
same.
I think a lot of people, fighting, even though it's becoming bigger, it's still such like a small sport. I think that, it's only now kind of broadcasting its way. Like, for example, Calvin and Max fighting on NBC this weekend. It's like huge thing, never happened. So that's a really big deal, especially with sports not being as, big right now.
It being on ESPN at all is mainstreaming it so much.
No doubt.
I feel like a lot of the branding, which I think was smart at the time for the UFC, especially when they were branding on like Spike TV, then they went to Fox. It was more that like they were looking for like that monster truck, WWE, like they went and got all those fans, and now they're ready. They're up. They need to break marketing wise into the mainstream, and ESPN is the way to do that.
I 100% agree. And with the Conor and Dustin fight, or I think maybe all the fights, there's going to be fans. So first MMA fights with fans, even though it's Abu Dhabi, it's just another step in the right direction to hopefully have maybe not big events, but events soon in the US more than it just the Apex Center, which is fun, and that's cool. It's cool to be there, but
that small octagon makes knockouts happen real frequently,
especially with the big dudes. Yeah, with the big guys, you're forced. The knockouts.
They're taking up the whole cage. Like
they're like way taller than it.
Yeah, it's wild to see. I am very grateful to Dana White though, because they were the first sport back after everything shut down. And like that, for me, that return to normalcy of just sitting down on a Saturday to watch a UFC card. And he did it. He pulled it off safely. And he like kind of wrote the blueprint for like a lot of sports to come back. Yeah, it's two guys as opposed to like 11 versus 11, but you got to give him the credit for that. It was a big deal. So.
No doubt. And I think a lot of people shit on him for it. And we're, kind of like, it's not safe with the pandemic. And I think that, he proved a lot of people wrong. And
that's why we have Fight Island now. It's
exactly. And it's incredible to think that a pandemic brought this ginormous, really cool thing that's going to be forever for UFC because of a pandemic. There are always going to be fights there, a few times a year. So I think that's really cool. I hope one day I can fight there.
Yeah. Hilarie Rose on Fight Island.
Yeah. I would love it. I wouldn't love the plane ride, but they put you in first class, so I'll take it.
I heard those hotel rooms are pretty dope too.
Yeah, you see all the fighters in there, and It looks awesome. So
do the Conor McGregor, man. Visualize it into existence.
That's right. You just got to keep putting it out into the world. That's all you got to do.
Like when he threw those 2 belts on, he was like, "This is what I dreamed into reality."
Yeah, where's my other belt?
Yes, Conor. Yes. So excited.
There's really nowhere else to go from here. So, Hilarie, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, I had so much fun.
We love you. You're great. I mean, for what it's worth, you mentioned back in the show, at the beginning of the show that the opponent that you faced was a better talker. I disagree. I've heard her interviews. You're far better on the mic than she is.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I think that too. I think that I can talk on the mic and like talk with people pretty well. I think that, yeah, she's a little more serious.
And Mike's a tough judge of that because he's a huge WWE fan, and that's like half the job when you're a professional wrestler. So if he's giving you that, I think you should run with that for sure.
Yeah, good. I feel like a few others have told me, so I'll take the compliment. I'll absorb it in.
Well, I mean, but honestly, thank you so much for joining. So for DK Sizzle, Dave Clark, the one and the only Hilarie Rose, I am Michael Marcangelo signing off on this episode of Missing the Point.
Hey, what's happening out there, everybody? This is Lawrence Ross, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about my podcast, The Lawrence Ross Show.
Egomaniac.
It's a 2-hour weekly exploration into my mind. I also do sketches, celebrity impersonations.
You're out of order!
And I also do song parodies. Not too shabby for a blind guy.
Not only are you visually impaired, but you are geographically impaired.
New episodes are released every Friday. Check it out on your favorite podcasting platform or listen to it here on Society 13 on Electrocast.
Miles, are you ready to record our promo for Season 2 of the Wanna Bet podcast?
David, have you ever seen a grown man naked?
Miles, we're not here to quote lines from Airplane. We're here to tell people that Season 2 starts August 18th.
But I like Airplane.
I know you do, but Wanna Bet is a sports betting podcast. Each week we bet $1,000 on the NFL teams and games that we love.
Well, that sounds like fun.
It is fun. And last year you picked over 60% of your games correctly.
How'd you do?
We're not talking about that. We are telling people that they can find us every Friday. So no more movie quotes.
Roger.
Electrocast.